Joining meeting now.
This meeting of the School Board of Trustees, subject to the open meeting law, is being recorded in accordance with section 2-2-301, 2-3-202, 2-3-203, 2-3-214 Montana Code annotated. All members of the board, staff, and public in attendance are advised that the public portion of the meeting will be recorded in both an audio and video format. Cameras and recording devices are placed throughout the meeting room to complete these recordings. Everyone in attendance is reminded to honor the basic rules of decorum during the meeting and guidance associated with providing public comment as stated in policy 1420F. By remaining in the meeting, those present consent to being recorded and displayed in the footage that will be posted on the school district's website. Welcome everybody. There'll be an opportunity for community comment on non-agenda items at the end. We'll start with the administrator and superintendent.
Okay, so West Side, they have their behavior, their awards, their second quarter awards assembly. They had 111 family members attended, so that was great. They had a bunch of people from the community. They got their STAR math and reading tests given in January. Most of your schools probably got those knocked out for the winter. We'll talk a little bit more about testing when we get to the superintendent report. Central, I love 3 months going on. Then they had intervention team meeting. Middle school, kind of I always hate to say this, but they're in a little bit of a, not necessarily quiet time, there's just not quite as many activities going on. So they wrapped up the wrestling and the basketballs and all that. So kids will probably be getting a little rowdy here in a little bit until track gets started. High school, they did have 5 more students that they lost. We talked about that in the last meeting. In the last 3 weeks, they've had 5 more move to an off-site placement. So when I was in Miles City last week, I did talk to one of their board members. He said they're having a huge issue with that there as well. And they're kind of trying to figure out some potential ways to try to, keep kids into schools and as we're not losing them to off-site instruction. Oddly enough, I talked to the superintendent in Lewistown when we were down there for basketball, and he said they're not seeing it at all. So, which is really weird to me because I would have thought if it would have, it's hitting everywhere from the western side to this side. So, it's one of those things that it's kind of how education goes a little bit, where we see these trends. We're almost more reactive than proactive, but we really probably need to get some groups of people together and start talking about what other schools are doing to try to combat that. I think it's Great Falls has, and Tim, he would probably know, but they have like an off-site charter kind of type deal where they at least collect the A&P for the students. But to me that, it's kind of like giving up a little bit too, and you kind of open the door to a lot of students taking advantage of that if you don't set your criteria right. I think for those things you could really end up with not a great situation because they're still not getting necessarily the quality education that you want them to get. So
have you heard of anybody else that does any like proactive, a group that does like proactive things before the students get to the point where they want to enroll off-site?
Well, and we have a process that we go through as well. Like we have our alt-ed setting that we try to talk them into going to. Most of the time, by the time they're getting to that point, the parents are on board with them. And once the parents are on board, it seems like there's really no coming back from it. So, and our numbers in the alt-ed aren't what they used to be either. Like I think we only have 3 kids right now in alt-ed, and typically he has a caseload of about 10. So a lot of them are just skipping that and they're just going right to their own off-site or homeschool instruction.
Did we anticipate these additional 5? You know?
I don't know. I didn't talk to Carl and Danny about it. Normally with these though, there's a grade situation or something comes up where they might be in jeopardy of graduating or something. So, but we could I'll certainly ask them and see what they say.
Any discussion like statewide taking away the activity?
No, I haven't had any of those discussions, but we're gonna have to, there's gotta be some type of, it's probably gonna have to come from the legislators.
Right.
But there's gonna have to be something done to try to give schools a little bit more teeth with trying to keep these kids enrolled. Cause some of them too, it's like they're doing it just to dodge a teacher for a year. But you're missing an entire year of education for that one class. So, yeah, it's an issue we have had. Everybody's kind of talking about it, but like I said, it's more just the concerns over it more so than what are we gonna do to fix it. So we have to definitely start going the other direction now with those conversations. He also included the testing that they have going on and the tests that they take at the high school, as well as, some district events. We did host the Eastern A Honor Band, which was it was a pretty cool opportunity. There's some really talented, people in the music realm as well, so it was good to see that. Wrestling goes to Lockwood, and then we also host the District C tournaments as always, and then divisional tournaments for basketball coming up as well. So quite a bit going on, starting to kind of wrap up the winter activities. Michelle's report, she's actually over at Central right now. They're doing their child find with their preschool screening, so that's kind of a big part of the early February for her. And then Mr. Barnhart has some stuff on testing with his, and then he also talks about, as far as the curriculum piece, like what programs we're using for like interventions and things like that. I know that there was some concern that came up over how much testing, and we've had these conversations for probably the last 3-4 years with our administrative team. The problem that we run into is the state requires X amount of tests. So you're looking at math for sure. They have science tests that they have to take at 4, 8, and 10. So we get randomly selected to do the NAEP testing every year.
Yeah.
Really don't feel it's very random anymore, but, so you have a number of those that are required, but the data that you get from those isn't great. Like even we're finding with the math, some of the test lists, like the writing prompts are, like the last one, the 3rd graders had to write about figuring out the difference between an entrepreneur and.
And an innovator.
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
like, a 3rd grader doesn't know.
And I don't think any of our 3rd graders probably know what either of those are, so to write a paper, a good paper about that is maybe a little bit outside of the expectations for them. So we're finding some things with that. And it's not super usable data because most of it we get from like the whole school-wide standpoint, doesn't come until the following year. So then we have our district ones, which is Fastbridge and STAR. So STAR is that actually goes all the way up to the senior year. We do STAR test our high school kids with math and reading every year, and then the Fastbridge is 3rd-ish through 8th, and that gives us a lot more comprehensive data. So the problem is, if we get rid of one of our district assessments, we lose like longitudinal data on our students, like how we're following them every year, so we can actually track their progress. And then it also helps us, like, those are more accurate numbers for us to use for like getting kids in title services and interventions and things like that. So it is tough, and we definitely over-test. I would say minimally you're probably looking at, if you start at probably 3rd grade, they're probably 20 hours throughout the year of just testing.
I think I talked to a 3rd grade teacher and she said she counted 33 hours
Yeah.
in the year.
And that's gonna fluctuate, because every class, it seems like you'll have the one kid that takes 3 hours where everybody else is taking 45 minutes. I mean, so, but I mean, like I said, minimally you're looking at 20 hours probably to 25 hours that they're not in the classroom teaching because we're testing, which seems counterproductive to what we're trying to get accomplished. But it's still conversations that we're having. We talked about getting rid of Fastbridge and just using STAR since it's a K. I mean, we can kind of use that all the way through their senior year. I just worry, like, if you get rid of Fastbridge testing that took over for the NWEA, which is what we used to use, we're gonna lose some quality data on students that we at least understand how to decipher.
Do you use that longitudinally for per student, or do you use it to compare this year's 1st grade class to
Per
last
student.
year's? Okay.
That is like.
Is there any way that you can like keep it, like say, from now on, any new student who comes into kindergarten isn't gonna take that test, but keep, you know what I'm saying? So like, all the 3rd grade students are gonna continue doing the STAR and the Fastbridge till they graduate, but then we can kind of phase it out?
Right, and we could. The problem that'll do though is like with our intervention teams, they use that data to place kids specifically, because that's how, it's way more specific data.
Okay.
Like, it'll tell you like what strand of reading they're low in, instead of just giving an overall
And
reading
that's
score.
Fast Bridge, not Star,
Yep,
right?
it'll like break down like where are they low in reading, it's not just reading in general. And that's where like your math is more of like, it does cover the standards, but we can't really use it for that type of data.
So, can we not opt out of math? Somebody said Fairview opted out of it.
No.
The first year you could, cause it was
Oh, okay.
optional, we just jumped on it cause we knew it was gonna be the next
Yeah.
test, so we figured we
What a
might
waste.
try to work out the kinks right away.
Waste of.
And then they had another test that they wanted to see if we wanted to be, to pilot, which,
You want me to address some of that?
yes.
Yeah, thank you, thank you.
Because we're a Title I school and we get federal funds for Title I, we have to do all of this testing. The NAEP is a Title I because we're part of Title I, and we do tend to get randomly drawn at the grades 3 through 8 quite a bit. The MAST test, actually the state test prior to MAST was solely to appease the federal government statistics. It had nothing to do with helping in education in the state of Montana. The data was pretty much useless. It was just that they had to show that 95% of our kids were being tested and that they were meeting the national requirements for that. So they switched to MAST to try to get us some more actionable data. We've had some issues with MAST. Some of the writing prompts have been inappropriate. The way that they score, they have a range, but they always take the lower of the range. So if you have somebody that's novice, between novice and near proficient, it gives them the novice rating because it always scores down as opposed to giving them the range. So we're seeing some issues with that. The data that we get one big report on how the district did. That doesn't come until September of the following year when we're already 5 weeks into the school year. So to use it to try to direct curriculum isn't gonna work because we're already 5 weeks in and you're gonna go and tell the teachers that they have to change this 5 weeks into the year. It's not gonna happen. If they would give us that same data at the end of each testing window, as opposed to just waiting and giving it to us all at the end, the summative, like kind of like a longitudinal progress report on how the kids are doing. It might be a little bit more usable for us. I do find some usable data out of that test. As far as our district tests, the reason we need to keep FastBridge is under the early childhood literacy, FastBridge is an accepted test and STAR is not. We get additional A and B for all kids that qualify for early childhood literacy, and we use anybody from the 49th percentile down qualifies for that early childhood literacy, so that gets us additional funding. So we keep that. Then the STAR, like I said, when we want to have that longitudinal data all the way through, we need that for the 9 through 12. There are ways around it. You could keep FastBridge just for K through 3, and then have STAR do everything else. You could cut your windows down so that you're only testing in the fall and the spring and not doing a winter assessment. The reason the fall and the spring is that's the data that we use for interventions and for title programs. And then we also use it in the spring to find students for summer school. So I mean, there's values to all of it. Another problem with the testing program when we went to a 4-day school week. One of those things that probably wasn't considered, but you're having, if the principals want to have a student on intervention monitored, you're looking at anywhere from 12 to 20 days is all the education they're getting before they're being retested. And you can't really expect much of a change in 12 to 20 days. So we are seeing, and then you throw in the WIDA test, which we have to test for EL students, and there's just a lot of being done. If there was a way for us to cut that back, and I'm sure there are strategic ways that we can discuss to do that, I would be all for that.
How do you find STAR tests correlating with the FastBridge? I mean, are they?
Their correlation is fairly good. It's not exactly, again, it goes back to the type of test and how they're being normed with their norming group. So it's not uncommon, in fact, I was just going through some stuff for summer school this year. I had students that were scoring proficient or near proficient on the fast bridge, so they were in that 35th to 50th range, percentile range. But then when I pull them up on STAR, they're down in the 16th to 19th percentile. So there is some issues that way. Again, it also depends on how burnt out the kids are and whether they're just clicking through the test. We have seen that happen quite a bit. I had 2 kids finish the STAR test in 3 minutes and 52 seconds. The other kids take about 25 to 30 minutes to complete it. So I mean, and a lot of that has to do again with being over tested, and like I said, with the 4-day week, that time that they're losing in the classroom is even that much more valuable because they just don't have the instructional time that they need to get all that done.
For sure. And I agree, we need at least 2 data points, I'd say, for, you know what I mean? It's nice to have 2 tests, but I don't know, it's like, there's so many, and you're right, it's like, they don't even have, 20 days of instructional time between the 2 tests.
And when you add in the parties that elementary schools run for like Valentine's Day and Christmas and Halloween, and field trips at the end of the year and teacher absences and all that goes along, assemblies, everything that goes along with that, they're losing even that much more instructional time. So if there's a way that we can reduce the testing, I think it would be beneficial.
So, do you have other ideas about how we could reduce testing?
Like I said, we may have to just look at reducing, we can either take the winter window out of the testing, or we could just, like I said, go with Fast Bridge K through 3 and STAR 4 through 12.
STAR is how you get your AR scores, right?
STAR is AR, and you could actually keep that, the K3 don't test that often.
Okay.
So, I mean, having those 2 assessments at that level isn't a big deal. It's when you start getting to that 3 through 8, because that's, the science wants to test grades 5 and 8, and the math test grades 3 through 8, and names anywhere from 3 through 8, or whatever their drawing is.
And do you find that, so if you kept STAR and Fast Bridge for like the West Side students, and then just, so you're saying keep Fast Bridge, sorry, right? For
Fast Bridge
third to-
would be for K3, so we have it as an assessment.
And then STAR would be for start at 3rd grade. Do you find that STAR correlates well with MAST or NAEP or anything?
That's a tough one for me to answer. They claim that they are better at giving you an idea of how they're going to score on those tests than Fast Bridge does. I would have to have Shane go back and look at our archive data and find out for sure if that's true or not. But they actually do have readiness standards on the STAR test that tell you how these kids are showing that they're going to be short of the standard, these kids are on track, and these kids are above the standard. I don't know how well it correlates with the mass testing. I don't know, right now I don't know with mass testing if they have enough data, since it's only been active for a couple of years now,
Sure.
to see how that's gonna.
And then I just have one more question. What detriments do you see if we dropped the winter testing window?
We use the data for, like I said, for interventions, and that's, beginning of 2nd semester, so, again, identifying kids that we can move out of the title program, kids that need to get into the title program. There are probably other ways of getting around that we could come up with.
And I would say like winter is where it's a good data point to determine if we need to continue interventions or make a referral for special education.
Are there other ways that you can see to do that besides?
You really need that informal data.
Yeah.
You do. I mean, you have teacher recommendations, and you can look at the MAST testing to get some of that data.
And you can't give that test just to like your intervention students, right? Would you need?
No, you
to give it-
can progress monitor on both of them and administer the test. They both have a progress monitoring aspect to it. So when we do the testing for intervention, each month, we just choose choose the kids that are on the intervention list and rescreen them, so it might be 12 or 13 kids as opposed to redoing the entire class.
Yeah, that just seems like so much testing, and I think you're totally right. Like, if kids are just clicking through, it's like, what kind of data are we getting anyway,
Yeah.
if they're not even trying?
And Fastbridge finally did put a clock on there, as they didn't have a clock for the longest time, but Star has always had a clock built in, so you can tell how quickly they're getting through the test or how long they're taking the test. So you get a little better feel for whether it's viable data or not. Like my kids that did it for 3 minutes and 52 seconds, even if they scored well, I probably would have thrown that one out, because it's just too tight, it's just clicking and guessing.
Do you have a thought of why you're being selected for this NAEP testing?
Cause we do it.
I'm their principal at Central, 8 years, and 7 out of my 8 years, we've been randomly selected for this test. I don't know what Brent did before he left, but we must have did a really good job there, because were you selected too?
Oh, yeah.
Brent? Yeah, yeah.
I think
year.
every year that I was there, we did it.
I don't know if it's because of our location and our size or how that's all determined.
We don't even see the results of that testing
Yeah, we don't get any
ever.
of that data,
Why?
because it's for the federal government to
That's not
determine our report card and how we're doing.
And we
that.
can't opt out of that either, I take it?
No, because that's federal funding, that's part of Title I.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, anything we can, I mean, I don't want, it's like a fine balance, right? Because you need the data, you need to identify your intervention students, but also it's like, that is so much
Well,
time
and you do
testing.
have some formative data from the teachers' assessments. I mean, there are things that you could utilize to try to supplement that winter window. I know when Mrs. Johnson was at the middle school, she didn't do winter testing. It does mess a little bit with our data, but at some point, like you said, maybe we have to just start weaning.
Mhm.
And I do think the perception of this mass testing too was different than what it actually has turned out to be as well. I'm hoping that does change. I don't know. It may as the years progress. I know it's still kind of in a trial run. Maybe Tom knows more, but my perception of it was it would be smaller tests, less time, and it truly has not turned out to be that way, honestly, so.
Well, and it sounds like it's not even giving you good data anyway.
In a time.
Yeah.
It gives, I mean, it does tell us where kids are having misconceptions within a specific, so like in fractions. If a number of kids miss a certain question in fractions, it will tell us if it's a misconception and how they figured it out and where the issue was. So there is some usable data off of it that way. The comprehensive one was usable for me, but again, I have to wait until September to get that data, and that's just a little late.
Yeah.
If we started in September 1st, then it would probably be okay, but since we started in early August.
Yeah. Thank you for that breakdown.
Okay. Superintendent report? We have our enrollment numbers there down. Total enrollment from 1181 to 1174. So again, kind of seeing that trend a little bit. Strategic plan, graduate profile, OPI accreditation, professional development plan. I think as far as the accreditation piece, Mr. Barnhart did an excellent job. I think we pretty much have everything ready to submit. That opened up last Monday.
Yeah, we're meeting Wednesday, right?
Yep, so we will meet and we'll submit all of that Wednesday and get the feedback. That window closes at the end of the month. Labor management met. There were no issues. We did check in all of the buildings. Buildings and grounds, we still need the particle board replacement at Central. And then they've got a few things that they're still finishing up on the roof at the high school. Hopefully they get that debris down soon so we can figure out any type of damage that we have on that lower roof. That'll probably be something that we'll have figured out here this spring, but it doesn't seem like we're having any major leaks or anything right now, so. School safety, nothing new to report. Threat assessment, there was a threat assessment conducted at the middle school on January 28th. After conducting interviews with all the students and staff members, It was determined that there was no credible or significant threat. They put some cautionary measures in place. There's always a chance that we didn't get all the information that we needed, but after the investigation, this was not a credible threat. They'll check the student's backpack every day. NEMAS, we met Wednesday, February 4th. They met at the Stagecoach. I attended virtually. That one, Williston State was there talking about all of their programs that they're trying to get going. If you haven't met with their, it's not the president, but yeah, he's kind of a go-getter. He's got a lot of ideas and brings a lot of energy to the room. Terry Bybee from Flowforms presented at that program. We use Flowforms. It's been a really good addition actually for us. We use it for a number of our, just what we used to have to, the problem you run into is you have these forms that somebody fills it out, they scan it, email it to you, you have to print it out, sign it, scan it, send it to whoever who prints it out, signs it. I mean, it's just like so this kind of cleans all that up. You can do all that electronically. But we use it for a lot of forms. We were gonna try it with requisitions this year, and then we kind of chickened out because it seemed like it'd be a lot, and change is always scary. Curriculum, we discussed curriculum at the weekly admin meeting on Tuesday, February 3rd. Most of the discussion was around Atlas, and then also getting our training in for our new reading program, which will be next Friday. No, this Friday. Right?
This Friday.
Yeah.
This Friday. So they'll have a 3-hour training, the K through 5 will have a 3-hour training on that. Bridge Alliance is moving forward. They got their numbers and met their minimum requirements, so that is moving forward without us really hearing anything on it. And then resignations, you had Taylor Hanley, 4th grade teacher, and Brent superintendent. And that is the superintendent report. Consent agenda? Yep. Okay, so starting on page 16, we have our January 19th meeting minutes. If there's anything you want changed on those, let me know. And the budget report, start on page 21 with the cash balances. And the biggest thing that we have in here as far as the budgets is we did get our 3rd quarter oil and gas check, and it was very low. So our elementary was down 70% of last year,
Yeah.
and the high school was down 62% from last year.
Yep.
So we are really gonna have to figure out where we're gonna tighten things up for next year. But like I said, working with Tracy, we do have all of our salaries are out of the flex fund. So we're not paying any of that out of the flex fund, that's all in the general fund. And wherever it needs to come out of, so now it's gonna be a matter of figuring out where we can tighten up. I mean, one area you're probably looking at is your class sizes. You're probably gonna have to increase a little bit. We already know that we're losing like 4th grade teacher that resigned. We will probably not absorb that position. We'll end up, our class sizes will go from 21 to probably 24, 25 for 5th grade. So there's some smaller things like that that we'll probably be looking at doing to help out on the budget side of it. Let's see, ASB accounts start on page 37. And there was a voided check, so check number 712-35063. So that was a check that we had mailed a long time ago. We tried to get in contact with the family, nobody answered, so that check was voided. And then I also printed off the investment report, and Tracy's gonna look into where they're at last year. She actually already looked, so if you look at the subtotal in the middle where it has the 234 million, last year, at this time, it was at 220 million. So those have gone up about 14 million.
Sorry, where are we looking?
The one that we printed off,
Yeah.
if you look at kind of in the middle there where it's that 234 million,
Thank you.
last year at this time it was 220 million.
What percentage is that?
Are you talking to me?
Either of you.
She's
I'm
definitely
I'm
talking
front
to you.
Well, I was waiting for you.
10%.
About 10%? Thank you. Okay. Starting on page 42, you have the TR6 for our first semester. That was a change from our auditors. And the only other thing that I have included, and I didn't put anything with it, is the early numeracy program. So last year, we'll go through that when we get there. So, if there are no questions, I can go through the consent agenda, but I'll give you time if you need time.
What are the ineligible riders?
That's a
For the
transportation
transfer
bus.
bus.
So there are people who don't get reimbursed on the bus?
It's the in-town transfer, so like when kids get on at
Oh,
Central.
so we
or
don't get
Western.
reimbursed for it, gotcha. Thank you.
The kids pay for it.
Okay.
Yep, we're good.
Okay, consent agenda, approval of minutes, all recorded board meeting minutes must be reviewed and approved at the following board meeting. As you review the meeting minutes, please make note of any additions or changes that need to be made. Recommend to approve the board meeting minutes for the board meeting on January 19th, 2026, with any noted or necessary agreed upon changes. Warrants and claims in accordance with board policy 7326, all financial obligations and disbursements must be properly documented. The documentation must specifically describe the goods, services acquired, proper budget item for appropriation. I recommend to approve all claims, payments, and cancellations as presented. ASB accounts and transfers in accordance with board policy 7425, the board of trustees should conduct a monthly review of the ASB account balances reported by the deputy fund custodian. Recommend to approve the ASB balances, transfers, payments, and voided checks as presented above. TR6 bus route reimbursement. The district receives bus route reimbursement claims each semester to be reviewed by the board and sent to the state for reimbursement. This is something that we did not traditionally have approved by the board, but is now requested by our auditors. We'll continue to review and approve these in the future. Recommend to approve the bus route reimbursement claim for 2026, 2027 school year semester 1, sorry. That should be 2025, 2026, sorry. Got ahead of myself. District Early Numeracy Reading Program. At the September 9th, 2024 monthly board meeting, the trustees voted in favor of adopting an early literacy program to utilize for identified students in the district. In order to qualify for the program, the district adopted a screening tool that's given to the students in the spring. Students that score low in one area of the screener qualify for the early literacy program. The legislative session voted to expand this program to include an early numeracy component. Students will qualify for early literacy and numeracy program through a state-approved screening tool. As the state starts to look at improving math and reading scores, we'd like to expand our early literacy program and include an early numeracy component as well. So I recommend to approve the adoption of an early numeracy math program with classroom-based instruction, family resource program, and summer school program. And if approved, we recommend to approve the Montana Early Childhood Numeracy Standards for the classroom-based program. There are no new hires. And that is the consent agenda.
I have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
I have a second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, starting on page 46 and moving on to page 47 is a list of all of our tenured teachers that are up for contract renewal. So I recommend to approve the 26-27 certified tenured contracts as presented.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, on page 49, we have our directors and license position contracts for the 26-27 school year. Recommend to approve those contracts for the 26-27 department directors and license position contracts as presented.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, starting on page 51, you see the administrators' contracts. I recommend to approve the 26-27 administration contracts as presented.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. There was hesitation there. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, and then the last one for contracts for this month is the fall sub varsity coaching contract renewals. So for all of the programs that were approved at last month's meeting, I recommend to approve the rehire of all listed assistant high school, middle school, and elementary fall activity assistant coaches for the 26-27 school year as presented.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and
Okay, that
second.
was too many voices there. Who was that?
One of us.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, and then the last thing that I have for presenting, and then we'll also get into the selection of the negotiation committee, is the 2026-2027 school calendar. So that committee met 2 times over the past 2 months to decide on calendar options for the 26-27 school year. Surveys were sent out to staff, and the committee reviewed the results to help make the decision. We'll once again so with this calendar, we'll finish the first semester the day before the start of the winter break. And if approved, this will be the 3rd year that we will not have a full week off for spring break. So next year will be the 3rd year. The past 2 years, we've had 2 full weeks off for winter break. This will not be the case in this calendar. This calendar will have only 1 Friday with students in school, which I believe is the first Friday. The teachers wanted to try to report the first day of the 2nd semester without students, so that will be a half day for them, which I think it'll be good to try. And if they like it, it's something that they might look at trying to do in future years. I know there's a lot of school districts in the state. I shouldn't say a lot. I know there are some school districts in the state that do that.
So they're gonna come, the teachers are gonna come on the 4th for half a day?
Yes.
That is- Okay.
Yep, so that January 4th, or in blue, that'll be when they report, and they'll be in that half day. And actually, if you look at the days, so you're looking at 74 days in the first semester and 78 and a half, that's about as balanced as we've been since we went to a 4-day week. Normally, there's about a 9-day difference, so we tried to get that evened out a little bit.
So is the last day supposed to be a full day? It says it up at the top.
It is not, it's a half day.
They changed it. They just didn't change it at the
okay.
top.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, yes, so what they were proposing to do is to take out the half day before Christmas. So that full day would be off, and they would move that half day to the last day of the year. But if you look in the master agreement, it says that you need to try to have a half day before your winter break, and the last day of school, they wanted it to be a half day. That's what is in the language of the master agreement, so.
Have you noticed any trends in attendance when we have a full week spring break versus just a couple days?
They go on vacation when they wanna go.
That happened no matter what.
Yeah.
Because the reality is ours didn't match up with college and whatever else, so when people wanna go, they just go.
Just curious.
Yeah, so sometimes kids just miss 2 full weeks.
Okay, I recommend to approve the 26-27 district calendar as presented.
Do I have a motion?
So,
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
okay, and the last thing that we should probably have a discussion on is selecting a negotiations committee.
I think you just do it as a board this year.
You want the whole board?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have issues with people getting here, and we're notorious for going into the summer,
Yeah.
and with 2 people not returning to the board, you know, if you have a committee, then either they're not on it, which doesn't help, because they're the only other 2 besides me that have done it,
Right.
and, you know, then you're bringing in, so I just think, you do it as a board, you try to make as many as you can, and that's just the way it goes.
And it'll be a good experience for everybody on the board
Mhm.
to go through. So I will send out dates. Well, I guess do we wanna vote on that? To have the committee, or just that?
I don't think we need to, we've never voted on it before, it's just a selection of how we wanna do it, so.
Okay.
I think we just try to do it, and again, when we have dates, you know, as long as we can get the majority of us here,
Okay.
you know, if you gotta miss a couple, you miss a couple, that's the way it goes.
Okay, so what I'll probably try to do is run one like a Monday, same time as we have like our board meetings in March. So we'll try to do one, when I'm looking at the calendar in my mind, probably will be closer to the middle of the month. When's our next board meeting?
9th.
The 9th, so I'll maybe shoot for that next Monday, so I'll send something out to you and let me know if that date would work for you, 5:30 on the 16th.
Mm-hmm.
When is spring break?
It's
We
the
don't
end of
have spring break on,
We have that winter break.
that's in
It's the end of
February, so
February.
that's all done. So I'll maybe send something out to you and then I'll send something to the SCA to see if that date would work. Again, if we're doing it as an entire board, we don't have to have the whole board present, but I would try to get to them just because it's gonna be good information. Like the first meeting, typically, they'll come in and they'll have kind of a list of some things that they're asking for. And then that, a lot of times, that ends that meeting, because we kind of look at it, you'll look at it, and then takes a little time to absorb, we gotta think about it, and then the next meeting is typically a little bit longer, where we'll start talking about if we do this, can we do this, and that sort of thing, so. And we probably won't talk about anything as far as contracts until the last meeting. So hopefully that'll happen.
How many people have?
Do you wanna try these a little earlier in the month rather than mid-month?
We can, you wanna go the week before
Yeah.
the board meeting? So that'd be like the second? You're out of town on the second, and you can always call in too, because we'll have those on there.
What'd you say it was, the 9th?
The 9th is our board meeting.
Yeah,
And if you wanna come in and go over some budget stuff, we don't have to have a meeting, you can just come in and meet with me if you want to.
Yeah, I'm on the second too.
What's that?
I'm on the Tuesday.
On the second?
We could do the 10th.
Can we do the
Back to
10th?
back.
are you back on the 10th?
Yeah, I'm back on the 3rd, actually.
Should we just do it a Tuesday?
Yeah, let's just do it Tuesday the 10th.
Tuesday after the day after the board meeting, okay? So I'll see if that works for the SCA and I'll let you know what we find out on that. So we'll shoot for March 10th at 5:30. And then after that, typically what we'll probably wanna do with them before we adjourn those meetings is ask when they wanna do the next meeting. So then that way it's not constantly, this day works, this day doesn't, then we know when we're gonna meet from there.
Cool.
There it is.
Anyone else have anything?
Carl, we were talking about the 5 students. Did you have any idea that they were going to be? Okay.
Yeah. A lot of what we're seeing right now is just, it's tenants related, and finding something that works, and things like that, but yeah. There was no like, usually if they're surprised, we can do something that tries to keep them. Those are the ones that are pretty easy to capture for the most part. I say that, but we've also had ones that it's like, no, there's nothing you can do, we've already made it, we're going to,
And those parents were pretty like set in stone too, that.
yeah, I mean, that they, and to be honest with you, the surprise ones typically have a different kind of plan set in place. That's maybe a little more concrete than the ones that we have expectations on, is that they fight in the mornings, it's all they talk about, done fighting the kids, and they're old enough now, they're gonna make that decision, kind of a thing, so.
Anybody else? Sure. Go ahead, start. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, earlier tonight, heard your superintendent announce his resignation. I knew that was gonna be happening. Put myself out there as an applicant for you. I'm not sure if you've had any discussions about what process you plan on going through. You have a variety of options available. Conducting a search yourself, going through hiring MTSBA, Via Calava, there's a lot of different options as far as how you wanna do your search. I just wanted to let you know that I have just given given Tracy an application, and there you have an abbreviated resume from me and letter of interest. I'd be honored to have the opportunity to serve. I've talked to my wife, talked to my other significant, my church, my other employers, and they gave full blessing for me to pursue this. I just really feel called to be able to offer myself up if it's something that you're interested in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we need to discuss any of that informally, or did you just post?
We will be going through Calvin law.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sent them all the information,
Okay.
for the brochure. They said they were gonna put it out, but I think they're waiting on some feedback from Landon,
Okay.
and then they'll get that out.
Can they let us know when it's posted?
I will let you know.
I would bet it'll go out this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's stuff usually when you post, the brochure doesn't necessarily pop up if you're not like logged in. Like when the MTSBA does it, their brochure does pop up, and that's when I sent out, but it'll be very similar, obviously.
Yeah.
And we're paying this law service to.
Yeah, they do a lot of it. It's kind of 50-50. But yeah, and maybe they can just send it to the board, or, you know, when they have it finished, so that we can take a look at it and see what we put out there.
Did you send them the paper that shows what all they provide, like the services that they provide?
Yeah.
I did not.
Did
I
you do
will.
that?
I thought I saw something about it.
I can
Did you?
even forward that
I
along.
think that
Yeah,
forwarded
Ben
it.
said something.
Cause I was chuckling to myself, cause at the bottom it said that they provided all for a fee of $600, and then later on it said $6,000, and I was
Right.
like,
Yeah.
so I was
Yeah,
just
I thought
giggling to
something
myself.
Kinda cheap.
I know, I was like,
Yeah.
$600.
Yeah.
Dang.
They wanted a lot of information.
Yeah, they do a pretty thorough
Yeah.
job of vetting the candidates before they even come to us.
So they vet, I mean, can you walk me through the process?
So they'll generally kind of vet the candidates. If there's anyone that's like an obvious no, they kind of just leave it out. Other than that, they'll just kind of give us whatever they get. You know, we'll get a packet of, 1, 3, 5, however many they have, and then generally we will get together and kind of say, how many of these do we want to interview? And then we'll set up interviews. Kind of depends. Last time we did it by video because it was during COVID. Time before that, we did it at the middle school, and Garth Galloway, read through all the questions, and then as a board, so like with Mr. Silk, it was, did the interviews, open to the public, obviously, listened to everything, and then we went back into a classroom and just kind of sat and discussed of what we want.
And we have that final decision?
Yeah, I mean, it's our choice, what candidate we wanna try to move forward with, and then that's where they come in again, where then they do the negotiations for us of like, this is kind of what we're thinking, money-wise, benefits, everything else, and then, they do all that work to try to get the contract done. So yeah, they do a lot of vetting, and I mean, even with that, the first time we had some superintendents, we excluded some that they didn't, cause it was, there were some things that were like, they let it go, and we looked at it like, yeah, we don't wanna interview that person. So yeah, that's just kind of the process, so it's kind of a sit and wait from our standpoint right now until they can get it, and then again, if they hand us 3 applicants and we're not happy, we can say, we like this one, but we'd still wanna give ourselves a little bit of time, I mean, it's a balancing act, cause you don't wanna be into, September and not have chosen anybody, especially when we're going through accreditation next year and stuff, but you don't wanna be forced to, just take one candidate if that's what you got,
What's our deadline?
we don't really have one now, I mean,
They'll set a deadline
Yeah.
for you when they
Yeah.
send it out. It'll probably be,
Isn't it in June?
it'll be like early March.
for the applicant of when they can get it
So
in.
like, when do we need to have somebody hired?
I mean, June is kind of the latest, that's kind of, end of June is when things switch over, so, that's the thing.
And the farther into it you go, cause people are gonna be taking jobs, there's going to be a ton of superintendent jobs open in the state, so you'll wanna probably act fairly fast once
Yeah.
you get that stuff in.
Yeah, the only good part is right now, it seems like it's more smaller schools that are open. Whitefish already filled theirs. So usually it's more smaller schools right now, so you're competing with Westby and not necessarily other Class A schools, but, yeah, I mean, it's just, we get the candidates we get, we look through them, and if we're happy, we move on, and if we're not, we keep searching. You know, and make do, that's just kind of the way it goes. Yeah, I think the first time, with Mr. Silk, I think we went through 2 rounds of applicants before we were happy enough to start interviewing, so.
So like the application deadline would be beginning of March, and then they would hand us those, say, the first week of March or second week of March, whatever, and then we look through them and then start interviewing April?
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be, how long do they take to vet the candidates? And then, you know, then we just gotta start lining stuff up, cause like, you know, we had the applicant from Alaska, we gotta get them down here, we gotta, you know, set up.
Yeah.
And do you wanna do interviews on multiple nights? Like during COVID it was kinda easy, cause
It was all
everything.
online.
Yeah, it was all by video, so, you know, if you're gonna do like a public forum like we did 2 times ago, you kinda wanna make sure all of them can come on one night, so, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's all fresh in your mind when you go, you know, when we start discussing the candidates too,
Right.
so.
Right.
And I mean, you know, could be a case we pick one and can't come to a financial agreement and decide that number 2 is fine or move on, so. Yep.
And then we'll also do like tours of like the buildings for the
Mhm.
candidates, and I think they did like ice cream socials where the
Yep.
staff from the buildings could go in and talk with them, and, I would imagine, and I'll arrange some of that stuff, I'll get that plan, I'll figure out for you.
Yeah, we did lunch at South 40. I met Mr. Silk at Westside. They did an ice cream thing like in the, cause that was shortly after they finished the cafeteria over there. So yeah, they'll put out some public stuff, you know, so that they can see the community if, you know, and again, meet the staff, so.
Thanks.
Kind of an event.
It is.
There wasn't as much fanfare with you though.
No.
There wasn't.
You guys must have been pretty hard up on that one.
I don't remember any of that.
Well, because, everything was shut down.
Yeah, it was all COVID, so it was just.
Fair.
Ouch.
All of us with masks on
They just need.
when he's on the screen.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, anything else? We adjourn. Got one last day, you already resigned, that's fine. Well, let's go by, it's